Taking your driver's test in the wintertime. Yes, indeed, I encourage you to take your test in the wintertime because it is easier, believe it or not. That's what we're going to talk about today and give you the tips and strategies to be successful on passing your driver's test on snow and ice. Although there probably isn't going to be snow and ice in the wintertime. Taking your driver's test in the wintertime, learning to drive in the wintertime. Benefits of learning to drive in the wintertime. You are going to have a higher skill set because you will have better understanding of the vehicle, have better understanding of traction, and you will have better understanding of the primary controls, the accelerator, the brake, and the steering wheel, and how these function when you begin to lose traction in the wintertime. So know that and learn how to drive in the wintertime. You can find all the links for the videos here. The driving lessons with Willie. I did teach Willie how to drive in the wintertime and he was successful on passing his driver's test. And easier driving test. 5 reasons why you should take your driver's test in the wintertime. Definitely have a look at these videos. And the winter driving playlist as well is down in the description. So have a look at all of that and those great resources. All right, slipping and sliding, learning how to drive in the wintertime. You will have a higher skill set and be a better driver. Okay, mastery of the primary controls, as I already talked about in the introduction. The steering wheel, the brake, and the accelerator. And for those of you driving manual transmissions, learning how to drive manual transmissions, the clutch as well. And unfortunately not unfortunately, we've seen the demise of the manual transmission. It's pretty tough to find a car that is fitted with a manual transmission in North America. 85% of the vehicles in North America are automatic transmissions, 15% are manual transmissions. However, in Europe, it's the inverse, right? 85% of the vehicles in Europe are manual transmissions and only about 15% of the vehicles are automatic transmissions. The reason for that is that a manual transmission and clutch is smaller and all the cars in Europe are smaller. So manual transmissions are in keeping with that instead of the big clunky automatic transmissions. Understanding traction, understanding going around curves, corners, and turns, and adjusting your driving accordingly. And as I said, all vehicles in this day and age are all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. Very few of them are two-wheel, rear-wheel drive. All right, so know that when you're driving in the wintertime, you're going to have, as long as you have good tires on your vehicle, you're going to have okay traction. It's not going to be a problem. Now, Corey will put up the video with you with Gavin. The first driving lesson with Gavin, we realized that the tires on his aunt's SUV were in fact bald, and a couple of times we went around the corner and lost some traction there. So make sure you have quality tires on your vehicle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be winter tires per se, but good quality all-season tires are going to keep you safe when you're learning how to drive in the wintertime. Don't be left out in the cold. It's unlikely that you're going to drive in a blizzard or heavy snow and take your driver's test in the wintertime. If it is adverse driving conditions in the wintertime, the DMV will postpone your driver's test to another day, okay? It's not your fault that you canceled the driver's test. They're not going to penalize you for that and make you wait 2 months, okay? They're simply going to make you wait a couple of days, maybe a week at the outside, because the driving examiner knows that you don't have a high skill level and they're going to make you drive around in adverse weather conditions. So know that. They're going to postpone your driver's test, okay? Don't listen to the rhetoric of everybody else. Your friends, your family, all the news on the radio. It's all false. You will not die. Okay? Driving in the wintertime. Many people drive successfully in the wintertime and they live to tell stories about it. Oh my God, I was going sideways down the interstate and the traffic was coming at me through the side window, but it straightened out and we all lived. Okay? You're going to be just fine in the wintertime. Do not listen to the rhetoric. Know that you can drive in adverse weather conditions, and as I said, there is less traffic in the wintertime. There's no bicycle riders. Okay, maybe a few crazy bicycle riders because, they're all over Twitter about how we hate cars right now. We're going to build bicycle lanes and we're going to drive and we're going to cycle around in, 15 degrees Fahrenheit weather with snow up to our eyeballs. Those people are just weird, okay? Wintertime, there's no cyclists, there's no pedestrians, few pedestrians, there's no motorcycle riders, there's no trucks pulling camper vans and those types of things. So there is less traffic in the winter time to contend with. And the key rule, the golden rule of driving in the wintertime is stop back from where you want to actually stop and then creep up to where you want to stop. And I was doing this the other day because we got a skiff of snow and it just enough to make the roads icy and slippery that you want to stop back from the intersection and then creep up to the intersection to make sure that you actually get stopped at the intersection. You don't want to get to the intersection and then like, oh my God, it's slippery and we're not gonna get stopped. And then you keep pushing the brake pedal harder and harder and harder. And then all of a sudden the ABS kicks in. And you do this kind of slow motion sliding into the intersection. Okay. So the golden rule of wintertime, slow down back from where you actually want to stop and then creep up to the intersection where you want to stop. Thank you. I needed to hear this. Aaron, you were most welcome. Marion, I saw a guy wearing shorts riding a bicycle the other morning while it was snowing. Marion, I saw a kid coming from the high school today, and it's, what is it? It was -8 degrees Celsius, so it was 12 degrees Fahrenheit here this afternoon, and he's wearing shorts. He's wearing shorts. There's always that guy wearing shorts. It's like wintertime, blowing a gale, blizzard conditions, freezing your behind off, and I'm like wearing snow pants and my ski jacket and they're wearing shorts. There's that guy. They're so weird. They're so weird. Okay. Wintertime driving test. You can be lackadaisical. Okay. You only have to stop before the sidewalk. You do not have to stop at the correct stopping position, before the stop line, before the sidewalk, or at the edge of the road if those two conditions don't exist. You don't have to be 8 to 12 inches from the curb when you parallel park. You just have to get in behind the car in front of you, because testers do not like pushing cars out of the ditch. If you get stuck in the wintertime because you went too deep into the snowbank, they're just going to get out of the car and they're just going to walk back to the test center. They're probably not even going to tell you why they're walking back to the test center. They're just going to get out of the car and go away. And you're like, well, where'd they go? And unfortunately, your test is over and you got to come back and do it another day. So just in behind the vehicles in front of you. All right, drive a bit slower on residential streets because all the main streets are going to be clear. The main streets get salted, sanded, and plowed first. The back streets, the residential streets, don't get cleared as much. So you can go slower on those streets if there's snow and ice. And again, the golden rule of driving tests in the wintertime, slow down back from where you actually want to stop and then creep up to where you want to get stopped at the intersection to be sure that you do in fact get stopped at the intersection. Okay, make sure that you have decent tires on your vehicle. There are some places here in British Columbia on certain highways you have to have winter rated tires, which means they either have to have the mountain snowflake symbol on them or they have to have the M&S symbol on them. Okay, some places will have steel studded tires. Make sure your tires are properly inflated. If you have a late model car in the last 10 years, since 2015, you probably have tire monitoring sensors on them that will tell you whether you have low air pressure in one of your tires. If you don't, make sure they're topped up. Make sure your windshield washer fluid is topped up, and make sure that you have good windshield wipers on, because you need to have clear visibility on your vehicle. Before you head down to the driver's test center, make sure all the snow is cleared off your vehicle. Don't get lazy on this part. Make sure that you have the snow cleared off the roof as well. 3 secondary controls that you absolutely must know how to turn on: the defrost, the windshield wipers, high and low, make sure they work and squirt, okay? You got the squirt to keep the windshield clear. And headlights, make sure you're able to turn on those 3 secondary controls at minimum when heading down for your driver's test in the winter time. If you do start to lose traction, the vehicle starts to go sideways, or you start to get that yaw, get your foot off the throttle, steer the vehicle in the direction that you want to go. You're not going to be going very fast anyway, unless you're out on the highway, but it's not likely that you're going to go out on the highway, okay? You're probably going to be staying in the city for your driver's test in the wintertime. If you do come up to the intersection, you hit the brakes and it starts to slide and you're not getting any traction, move to the outside of your lane. Try and get out of the main ruts to find traction so that you can get your vehicle slowed down and get it stopped. I can't see windshield wipers, wiper fluid, defrost, heater controls. I already talked about this. The 3 minimum controls. I got ahead of myself here in the presentation. Okay, got super excited about what taking your driver's test in the wintertime, because you should take your driver's test in the wintertime. So defrost, know how to turn that on to keep the glass clear in the wintertime, because there's 2 people in the vehicle and we're all breathing out all that humid air into the vehicle. So know how to turn that on. Windshield wipers and the washer fluid and your headlights. Make sure you know how to turn all those things on in the wintertime for your driver's test. You got to get her stopped. Drive to the conditions of the roadway. As I said, if you're back on the back streets, there's going to be more snow and ice on those roads than there is on the main roads, because all the main roads are going to be salted and plowed. Not to mention there's lots of traffic on the main roads. So the more traffic you get, the clearer the roadways get, especially if it's, you know, around 0, you know, if it's around 34 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to clear that snow and melt that snow and ice off, and the roadways are going to be clear and you're going to be just fine. Brake early, creep up to where you want to get to, and get off the brake, get off the throttle if you do lose traction in the wintertime. But as I said, it's not likely that's going to happen, because if it's snowy, if there's any ice, or it's dangerous, the DMV, the test center, will postpone your driver's test. Okay, you got to do the work. If you're not comfortable going out on the roadways in the wintertime, go into a parking lot, get some pylons, do your parallel parking in the pylon, in the parking lot with the pylons. Back up either side, straight line backing, back in to your parking spot. Those types of things. Do your work. Okay. Look in the direction that you're going, and then as well in the wintertime, you're going to understand oversteering and understeering. Oversteering is when you turn the steering wheel and the back end starts to come around, it starts to slide, right? That's oversteering. Understeering is when you turn the steering wheel and the vehicle continues to go straight, which is a bit freaky. Oftentimes, understeering will happen because you're trying to brake and steer at the same time. It's important to understand in the wintertime that steering and braking become 2 separate actions. So when you're coming up to, so for example, you're coming up to an intersection, you're preparing to make a right-hand turn, you got to get slowed down first, get off the brakes, go around the corner, and then accelerate after you go around the corner. So braking and steering are 2 separate actions in the wintertime. And you will understand how the vehicle responds when you start to lose traction in the wintertime. This is why you're going to have a higher skill set, and this is why I encourage you and counsel you to take your driver's test in the wintertime and learn how to drive in the wintertime. So, reasons that you should take your driver's test in the wintertime. There's less traffic. There's no cyclists. There's no motorcycle riders. You know, there's a few crazy ones, but for the most part, they're not there. Okay? You'll have a higher skill set because you'll learn how to drive in the wintertime, and you'll understand what happens when your vehicle loses traction. Understeering, oversteering. The test is less exact in the wintertime. You don't have to be 8 to 12 inches from the curb when you're parallel parking. You don't have to stop at the correct stopping position at intersections, just behind the sidewalk. Give way to pedestrians, move out until you can see, and when the way is clear, then you can proceed. Roads will be just fine. If it's bad or there's a lot of snow and ice, the DMV will postpone your test to another day to keep you safe. And testers are more relaxed in the wintertime because they're not doing as many tests as they are in the summertime. The summertime is busy, crazy busy, and they're doing like 10 or 15 tests a day. So they're less stressed in the wintertime. As well, it's more likely that you're going to be able to get a test date in the wintertime when you want a test date. So if 10 o'clock on Thursday morning is your ideal test time, you will probably be able to get a test at that time. Whereas in the summertime, it's going to be a lot more challenging to actually get a test date. So don't postpone your driver's test. Take your driver's test in the winter time. So we're talking about getting your driver's license in the winter time, and I strongly encourage you not to postpone this until next year in the summertime, okay? Because everybody is taking their driver's test in the summertime. It's harder to get a driver's license test. There's more traffic on the roadways. Driving examiners are stressed. And you have to be exact in the summertime, whereas in the wintertime you don't have to, and there's less traffic on the roadways because we don't have cyclists, motorcycle riders, trucks pulling caravans, lots of pedestrians out walking around and those types of things. So yes, know that, taking your driver's test in the wintertime. Retired, 75 degrees in North Carolina, which is like 22 degrees Celsius. It's very nice there today. Awesome. Outdoor fishing. I'm going for my G test in Ontario on the 25th of February. Would it be okay if you give me some tips for smart drivers? Yes. Outdoor fishing. That's what it's all about today, and congratulations on taking your driver's test in the wintertime. We'll definitely help you out with that. And as well, the other thing we're going to talk about today, because people are taking driver's tests, there's lots of naysayers out there, all kinds of crazy information. And status, it's Paul, road test won't occur until April. April's a good month to take your driver's test. It's not too busy then, and people are just getting into going and those types of things. But Paul, definitely April is good, so that's awesome. Excellent. So 25th of February, yes, we're talking about passing your driver's test in the wintertime, because too many people postpone it, wait until the summertime. Of course, you know, who am I to say? You know, people come on my channel, they watch one video and they go, oh, he's just a crackpot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then they go away and they never come back. So, you know, those people we can't help out, but we can definitely help out the smart drivers who are watching now on the live stream or watching on the replay. So helping you to pass a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver with defensive driving, and as well helping you to get your license, your CDL license, to start a career as a bus or truck driver. And lots of great stuff out there. Lots of people on Twitter trying to help you in those types of things. And if you are getting a truck driver's license, I want to just address kind of the industry, and the industry has not changed much in terms of trucking, where the people that think they are trucking, they think that they're it in a bit and they have all the answers. You don't have all the answers when you're just because you're sitting behind the wheel of a truck. And unfortunately, that's kind of the tone of the industry, which is, I have more information than you and therefore I'm smarter than you. And it's unfortunate because there are so many people in the trucking industry that have a lot of knowledge and experience, which could be passed down to other people who are getting into the industry. But unfortunately, it's this power over, instead of helping people to become better, attitude in the industry. And I thought about that today because there was a post on Twitter and it was some truck passing a snowplow on a curve. Now, obviously, the person, I don't know whether they were making a mistake or they just got frustrated, they were behind the snowplow or those types of things, but it's interesting that you need to always look at the bigger picture of what's going on. Because when I was driving truck, when I went back driving truck in 2016, I made a mistake. And I've got a lot of years of experience of driving truck. I was going downhill. We're on a 2-lane road. We're coming from northern BC, from Edmonton down into Kamloops, and a 2-lane highway. I'm behind this other truck, and the other truck is doing 80 kilometers an hour up and down through the mountains on this 2-lane, 70 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, up and down through the speed. And there's one thing that drives me crazy is when people get out on the highway and they can't maintain one constant speed. So I timed it, where it's a straight stretch of road. We're going downhill because, as you may or may not know, semi-trucks do not have swift acceleration, and sometimes it takes a lot to get it going. And I was coming down the hill, and I got right beside the other truck. It's like neck and neck coming down the hill, and a car comes around the corner at the bend at the bottom of the hill, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, I either got to get on the brakes and climb back in behind this guy, or I just got to keep going. And just as that thought went through my head of the two choices that I had, the car pulled off the shoulder of the road, and I was like, okay, we're going, and we went past. But, it was a mistake that I made because, you have limited choices in a big truck when you're trying to pass another vehicle. So mistakes happen, and people make mistakes. And even with the amount of experience that I have driving truck, I still made a mistake. So I wish that the industry would change where there was more help. And I believe that if we want to make the trucking industry safer, we need to get industry involved. We need to get the companies, the trucking companies involved. But like so many other people, they're strapped for money, right? Money is always tight and training is always expensive. And, finding people who are qualified to teach other people is one of the challenges that the industry faces. But if we could lose this tone of, oh, newbies, right? Because there was another post yesterday on Twitter where they were showing the front cover, covering the radiator on the big trucks, because it's going down in some of these places, it's going down to minus 30, minus 35 degrees Celsius, which is, almost minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. It's super cold. And diesels don't warm up the same as gas engines do, so you have to cut the airflow off, and they simply put a cover over the front of the radiator grill. And, you know, the newbies out there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, just people who don't have a whole lot of experience that need to be taught these things. And if these trucks, these fleets are running in these types of conditions, they're going to put the cover on anyway, so otherwise you're not going to get any heat. Marion, I still feel very chuffed that I drove in the snow on Sunday. It was like a yes moment. Yes, and if you can drive in the snow there, Marion, in Vancouver, you're doing exceptionally well, my friend, exceptionally well, because it's not like driving in Alberta when it's minus 20 degrees Celsius, when it's, you know, 12 degrees Fahrenheit. It's more challenging for sure. Outdoor, I also really like your motto when you say pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Yes, and it's very much about life, right? You know, there's sometimes there's a right answer and there's a best answer, right? And it's kind of like, you know, going with your heart, going with your instinct about knowing what's right. Status, when I go for the road test, I make a left turn at the intersection. If I commit to the intersection but not enter the intersection, the examiner won't get upset. Status, no. Where are you taking your driver's test? Now, that is a piece of information that you might want to invest in going with a driving school, because a local driving instructor will be able to give you that information about whether the examiner at your DMV or test center wants you to move into the intersection. The way we teach it is that you're sitting with your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line, and when your gap presents itself on the other side of the intersection, you start driving straight into the intersection to meet your gap. And there's several reasons for that, right? And people unfortunately still believe that they need to be into the intersection. And there are DMVs, Sam will talk about this. Sam is here from New York. He's a driving instructor in the Bronx. In the city of New York, they want you to move into the intersection. And, you know, I disagree with that, because there are so many defensive driving reasons that you should stay at the edge of the intersection and only enter the intersection when your gap presents itself and you're going to meet that. First and foremost, you're able to have a better view of the traffic on the cross street. So pedestrians crossing over here. If you're in the intersection, they're going to be right at your side in your blind area. If you're back, they're going to be out to the front, which is going to be easier to map and track them as you're trying to move through the intersection. As well, if something happens in the intersection, you're not in the intersection and in that melee of whatever happened. I advocate strongly at the edge of the intersection when your gap presents itself. So the car's coming, there's a gap behind that car. When that car hits the stop line on the other side, then move into the intersection, and it's just going to keep you a lot safer as a driver. And if you watch most people anyway, most people do not move out into the center of the intersection unless it's super busy, which is not very often. There aren't very many places where you're going to get bumper to bumper traffic and, you know, you have to push through on the yellow light. I've seen that a handful of times in my lifetime of driving. So outdoor fishing, we're going for mine in Orangeville, not too far apart. Awesome. Status, you're in Mississauga. Yes, so wait at the edge of the intersection to make your left-hand turn. Talking about passing your driver's test in the wintertime and the reasons why you should take your driver's test in the wintertime. There's less traffic. There's no cyclists, no trucks pulling camper trailers, motorcycle riders, those types of things. Driving examiners are less stressed. You're more likely to get a test date. It's easier to get a test date. You can take your test when you want to. So for example, if you want to take it during the week at 10 o'clock in the morning or on the weekend, you can do that. You don't have to be exact on the driver's test in the winter time, because for whatever reason, testers don't want to push your car out of the snow, right? So you just need to get in behind the vehicle in front of you when you're parallel parking. You don't have to be 8 to 10 inches from the curb. Also, you don't have to stop at the correct stopping position at the intersection. There's usually snowbanks because there's been snow, and you just have to stop before the sidewalk. Stop before the sidewalk, check, make sure there aren't any pedestrians walking up and down the road, and then creep forward until you can see the traffic on the cross street, and when it's safe, proceed. That's what you need to do. So we're talking about the driving test is not as exact. All right, the other piece about it is if it is snowing, a blizzard, and it's crazy, snowy, lots of ice and those types of things, and it's dangerous, they're going to postpone your test. They won't make you take your test, okay? The other piece about it, all cars in this day and age are front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or four-wheel drive. Unless you're driving a sports car like a Camaro or a Mustang, those are going to be rear-wheel drive, but everything else is going to be four-wheel drive. If you're driving a pickup truck, it's unlikely you're going to have a two-wheel drive pickup truck. You're going to have a four-wheel drive pickup truck that you can drive around. Tires are good. Make sure your tires are decent on your vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to have good traction. Slow down at curves, corners, and turns, right? Get your speed down and then go around the curve, corner, and turn, and you're not going to lose control of your vehicle in the wintertime. So there's no reason that you shouldn't take your driver's test in the wintertime. I have every reason for you. Mary, what I found quite interesting was that Teslas were struggling in the snow. Yeah, that would be interesting, Marion. It's probably, here's my supposition about why Teslas are struggling in the snow, is because the tires are bald on them. Not because of, any engineering issue with the Tesla. It's the fact that the tires are probably bald because of their weight and the torque that these electric vehicles produce. They go through 2, maybe 3 sets of tires per year. I talked to my brother about this, my brother, as you know, is an automotive technician in Ontario and has a shop. And one of the technicians that works for him, his mom has a Tesla. And he says that she puts 2 to 3 sets of tires a year on that car. So the Teslas that are struggling in the snow in Vancouver, first, it's not surprising because it's really challenging. Because we've talked about it more dangerous in Vancouver because the temperature's around 0, but probably the Teslas, the tires are bald on them, and that's why they're struggling so much in the snow there. That would be my guess. I would need to get in one and drive one to figure out for sure, but right off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking. I thought the engine wasn't very strong. No, Marion, the engine's really, really strong, and there's lots of torque. And talking about the torque of the Teslas and the electric cars, that's probably the other thing. Is in my old buggy, for example, if I get into deep snow and I want to get it going, I won't start off in first gear. I will start off in second gear so that the tires don't spin and they get more grip. What happens is that you start spinning the tires and you lose traction, you break traction with the vehicle, and it won't get going off the line. You got to be really gentle getting going off the line. So this is the other piece with the electric cars, the Teslas, is that they have so much torque that they're struggling to get going off the line, in combination with the fact that probably the tires aren't very good because they're bald and the owner doesn't want to put a new set of tires on their vehicle. But it's just so much torque on these electric vehicles that they don't operate very well in winter conditions, as in the buggy, the old 1998 Honda CR-V, or any manual transmission, for example. If you're in snow or slippery conditions, you just start off in second gear, and that way you get that really hard bite and the vehicle will take off, as opposed to putting it in first gear where it starts to break traction and spin the tires. Won't do that. Okay, so there's a little tip for people who are thinking about taking their driver's test in the wintertime and getting going off the line. Is that's how you can do that. And lots of people talking about gearing down in their cars. Automatic transmissions are not the same as a manual transmission in any stretch of the imagination. You can put it in first gear or second gear. It doesn't matter. It won't change how the vehicle takes off. For example, what I was talking about with my manual transmission, I put it into second gear and I take off in second gear. It starts in second gear. An automatic transmission, on the other hand, if I put it in second gear and I want it to take off in second or low or whatever the configuration is on the automatic transmission, it will still start off in first gear. It will go first and second, and then it won't shift up to third and drive. Okay? Whereas a manual transmission, it'll just go into second gear and take off in that gear, which provides you more traction on snow and ice. Some advanced winter driving tips there if you're driving a manual transmission. If I got into a situation that the wheels spin, how would I get going? Because my car is an automatic. Marion, you just got to get going. And sometimes if the car won't get going, say you're on a bit of ice or you're on a bit of an incline, you may have to back up and then get it going again, and then take a run at it, and then back up again, and then take another run at it. Now, it depends where you are. If you're at an intersection, you're going to have a bit of trouble with that, right? The other thing with an automatic transmission, you've got an all-wheel drive. it's not likely that you're going to have any trouble with your HRV because it's all-wheel drive, right? It would have to be incredibly slippery for you not to get going in your HRV, you know, because like, as I said, it's all-wheel drive. Sam, thanks. So by the way, a car almost hit me today, near miss. I just don't understand why they call it a near miss when it's a near hit. I uploaded the video. Excellent. Sam, if you want to drop a link for that, we'll definitely have a look at that, but we're definitely happy to hear that you're okay, my friend. So yes. And the other thing, Marion, you've got the Michelin X Ice on your HRV. So like I said, with your all-wheel drive, your great Michelin winter tires on your vehicle, you're going to be just fine, my friend. I don't think that you're going to have to do that. Oh, I think it's lesson 4 with Willie. Corey will put that video up for you where we get stuck kind of in the snow when we're parking. And then I had to get him to rock the vehicle and show him how to rock the vehicle. This is another advanced winter driving tip, is if you get into some deep snow and you get a bit stuck, you got to back up and then get going and going forward, and then back up and then get going again, and then back up and then get going again. You got to kind of rock the vehicle to use that momentum of the vehicle to get it going. And if you're going to do this, and we were talking to Retired here a couple of weeks ago about that, about traction control. All these newer vehicles are all going to have traction control in them. If you get into deep snow and you do need to rock the vehicle and you need to spin the tires to get it going because you're in deep snow, you need to turn off the traction control, because the traction control will cut power to the drivetrain and you won't be able to spin the tires. So sometimes you got to do that. You just back up. So say, for example, you're in your driveway and you're out in the country, right? And we got to dump a snow overnight. You didn't have time to shovel it, and you got to get out of the driveway. So you drive forward as far as you can, stop, and then back up. So say you're back up 3 feet, and then you take a run at it, and then you stop, and it won't go any farther. Then you back up again. Say now you've got 5 feet, and you back up again, and then you take another run at it. You stop, and then you back up again, and then you run at it again. This is how I got going when we had a dump of snow. We had 3 feet here in 48 hours, 6 or 7 years ago here. And I was in Kelowna at the time at my friend's place. Well, my friend's place is at the bottom of a hill. And there was, there was this much snow on the road. And, you know, I was in the driveway and I got going and it was up a hill. Right? And the buggy, as I said to you, I had winter tires. Maybe I didn't have winter tires on the buggy at the time, but I got going and then it wouldn't go any farther. Even in second gear, it wouldn't get going any farther. So I just backed up their driveway and then I took another run at it. And then I backed up the driveway again and then I took another run at it until it stopped. And then I took another run at it and I got going. And then it just kept going and would grind through the snow. So know that if you're in a driveway or on a stretch of road or something like that, you're in deep snow, this is something that you're going to have to do, is back up, take a run at it. Back up, take a run at it. That's kind of an advanced winter driving tip. Sam's put up the link for the video he put up today. That's awesome. Definitely have a look at that. And we can always learn something from near misses. We watch all those crash videos and learn defensive driving techniques. Marion, it sounds funny. Yes, it does. It sounds funny that you got to back up and then take a run at it and then back up and take another run at it and back up and take another run at it. It sounds funny, but it works in deep snow. But this is just something we're losing these skills because we don't get dumps of snow anymore, and we don't have to rock the vehicle or push it out or those types of things, right? And the other piece, or the other bit of advice, and I got this from a tow truck driver some years ago. If you get stuck in the ditch, like say for example you slide off the road into the ditch, don't get in there and then keep spinning the tires. Don't, because you're just going to dig it in deeper and you're not going to get it out. If the vehicle doesn't move at all, you're stuck. And you either have to get a push or you have to get a tow. Don't dig it in deeper if you're super stuck, okay? You either got to get a tow truck to pull you out, you got to dig it out, you got to get change, you got somebody to tow it out. Now, saying that, of course, it's winter time and there's always a towing fail video, right? There's always somebody who hooks the tow cable or the tow strap onto the grill and then pulls the whole front of the car off. Okay, know that most cars, you know, there's going to be tow points on the vehicle. The best place to put the tow strap is on the trailer hitch. If you've got a trailer hitch on the vehicle, put the tow strap on the trailer hitch. Okay, that's your first point of hookup. Most newer cars, Tracy's Audi, for example, there will be a plastic piece in the front of the car that pops out, and you go in where the spare tire is in the jack, and in there will be a hook. It's threaded on the end, and it's a round piece, and you screw it in there, and that's the tow point on the vehicle. And it's in with your jack and your spare tire, and you have to pull on that tow point. Okay, you have to hook up to an axle or something like this. And this is why most of the time it is better that you call a wrecker, a tow truck, to get you out and pull you out professionally, okay? Because, you know, things can go wrong, and this is, you know, tow straps and those types of things. So know that. Doing super spinning when you're on slippery conditions or in deep snow or those types of things, the vehicle is going to start to walk sideways on you. When you're going forward, it's going to start to walk sideways. So once you go forward, when you're doing that going back and then going forward and then going back, once it goes forward and it stops, don't sit there and go, don't just like mat it to the floor. The tires are doing, because it's not going to go anywhere. Okay? You got to be very strategic about going forward, stopping, and then backing up. Okay, I love the videos. Thank you for all your help. Been working hard, have multiple lessons, so I'm sure we'll be successful on my road test in March. Awesome, awesome. That is great news, my friend. The video for the explanation. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that, Sam. Yes, spinning the tires, tow fails, straps, those types of things, okay? And if you need any of this information about how to tow your vehicle out of a ditch or something like that, get into the owner's manual. Have a look in the owner's manual, okay? It will tell you where to hook on with the tow strap and whatnot. I've seen so many people do that, though. Good expressions. You're most welcome, Marion. But like I said, most of you are going to be just fine in the wintertime. I mean, we don't... I mean, Japan got 47 inches of snow. I mean, there are some places that are getting tremendous amounts of snow, but a lot of places aren't getting tremendous amounts of snow, right? And most of the time you're going to be just fine. As I said, most cars now are front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. There's very few winter driving cars. And, you know, remember what they said about the Mustang, right? The Ford Mustang, best winter car you can buy, right? Because when it snows, you can't even get it out of the driveway. So it's going to keep you safe because it's not going to take you anywhere, all right? I did not know that tires... Oh, tires. Eric, you should just come here because steel-studded tires are legal here in British Columbia, and many people put them on their vehicles, and we haven't had snow here at all this winter. It's super cold now. It's, you know, 12 degrees at night, 10 degrees at night, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can hear them running up and down on the dry pavement. It drives me crazy. They just, unless I was driving on hardpack or up and down to the ski hill every day, I would not put steel-studded tires on my vehicle. They are so noisy. So noisy. Cars are noisy anyway. The kid's mom had a Tesla and I went for a ride in it one day and I thought, oh, it's an electric vehicle. It'll be really, really quiet going up and down the road. They're not. They're not, because the tires on the pavement make so much noise that they are noisy when you sit in them going up and down the road. They're not any more quiet than any other vehicle. Know that if you decide that you're going to buy an electric vehicle or whatnot. Aaron, I was driving a minibus Sunday night in Langley. Ice was forming on windshield. Even windshield washer wasn't clearing it. I was on Highway 1 and I practically had to stand out of my seat to see. Okay, Aaron, when that happens, sometimes it's a good idea to get pulled over somewhere safe into a gas station or whatnot and actually bang the ice off the windshield wipers. Because I know what you're talking about. There's times when it's raining and it's cold and the windshield wipers start to ice up and you have to actually bang the ice off the windshield wipers. Now, I've had some success in driving and having the windshield wipers come up and down and roll down my window and then be able to reach around and to be able to grab the windshield wiper and actually bang it and get the ice off the windshield wiper. But most of the time when that's happening and you can't see out and the defrost isn't working, you need to just get pulled over and get the windshield cleared to keep yourself safe to be able to see out through the glass. Now, saying that, the other piece that might be happening, and I was thinking about this the other day, the cabin filter. Every vehicle has a cabin filter, and it's essentially a filter. It's think of it like your furnace filter, right? You got a furnace, you got a filter in the furnace, because the furnace draws air in from outside, heats the air, and then pumps it into your house, and it goes through a filter so that you filter out all the crap that's pulled in, right? The cabin filter inside your car is exactly like the furnace filter inside your house. And a lot of people forget about them. I just changed mine in the car from when we went down to Mount Baker 2 weeks ago to go skiing. And I took it out and I have a picture of it. It was pretty gross. You know, they're gross and they need to be changed. And I would strongly encourage you to change it once a year, once every 18 months, because all your defrost, all your heat, and all your air conditioning goes through that cabin filter. And I don't know, it was like $30 for the cabin filter, and I can just put it in myself. It's pretty easy. Now, depending on your make and model of your vehicle, will decide how difficult it is to change the cabin filter. My mom's Pontiac Montana van, you just open the glove box and it's right there, and you pull it out and you change the cabin filter. Now, the buggy, my 1998 Honda CR-V, is a little more complicated. You got to do some bolts in behind the glove box and whatnot. It's really not that hard. I can do it myself in about 10 minutes. So cabin filters, change your cabin filter, because it will get plugged up and it will limit the airflow inside the cabin, which means it will also limit the airflow up to the defrost. So that's your first point of investigation when you're trying to determine what the problem is with your car. Change the cabin filter. The second reason why you may not be getting heat inside the cabin of your vehicle and may not be getting defrost is the thermostat. And this you probably need to take into a technician and get them to change the thermostat. The cooling system on your engine is a closed loop system. So it goes through the radiator, air flows through the front grille and goes through the radiator, cools the liquid, and then the liquid is pumped through your engine into the jackets of the motor and then back in through the radiator, and it cools the engine. We also draw from that cooling system to heat inside the vehicle. The thermostat is a valve that opens and closes depending on the temperature of the liquid in the radiator, okay? So most engines will run about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe 190 degrees Fahrenheit, 200, whatever the specifications are for your vehicle. Until the engine temperature or the cooling, the temperature of the radiator fluid gets up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, for example, which is what it is for the buggy, the thermostat will not open and allow the coolant to flow through. So until the engine temperature reaches optimum operating temperature, the thermostat will remain closed until it heats up. And if your vehicle is not heating up, the default on a thermostat, if it's broken, is to remain open. So if you've got 25 minutes, 30 minutes in the wintertime, it is taking your vehicle to heat up, it's probably your thermostat is stuck open, and you need to take it into a technician and get them to change that. Ideally, most vehicles should warm up to optimum operating temperature within 5-10 minutes of moderate driving in the morning. And I've been having an argument with a mechanic, and it's usually mechanics that I'm teaching them how to drive that I have an argument with, and they're arguing with me about the video that I posted that you don't need to warm up your vehicle beyond a couple of minutes of cleaning off the ice and snow on the outside of the vehicle. And they're saying, oh, you're going to warp the engine block, which is not true, because even the old buggy, I get in, I clean the snow and ice off, takes me about 3-4 minutes. The vehicle's been running. I get in, I drive it moderately, and it takes about 5 to 7 minutes for it to actually heat up and come up to operating temperature. So it's not heating it up very fast. So it's not going to warp the engine. The other piece about it is in the wintertime, when you first start up your vehicle, it's going to sit there and idle up. Okay, it's going to have a high idle when it's cold. It's going to run at about 2,500 RPM. When you're driving the vehicle, you're not running it much past 2,500 RPM. You shouldn't be anyway, because you're driving it moderately for the first 5 or 10 minutes to let the engine heat up. So you're not driving it crazy fast where it's going to heat up super fast and it's going to warp the block. None of that is true. Okay, because if that was true, we would be replacing engines all over the place. So every owner's manual will tell you not to idle your vehicle more than a couple of minutes before you take off and drive it moderately until it gets up to maximum operating temperature. And the other thing is, if you let it sit there and idle and wait until it gets up right up to optimum engine temperature, the only thing that you're heating up is the engine. You're not heating up anything else. You're not heating up the drivetrain, the transmission, the rear end, the axles, the bearings. Nothing else is heating up. The tires aren't heating up. Nothing else is heating up, just the engine. So essentially, you're just wasting fuel. Yes, a couple of minutes and then get in and drive it moderately, but for the most part, it's going to be just fine. Marion, thank you. Eric, too bad there are not 3 mil filters for the cabin air filters like home air filters. Do you recommend a certain type of cabin air filter brand? Eric, one is as good as the other, I've found. You can get a Fram filter. I've had good luck with those, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter too much. Antifreeze is good to have enough in it too. Yes. But Eric, the thing about it is it's not like the old days where we used to put water in cooling systems. We just don't do that anymore. Now it's pretty much antifreeze. And even if you do get antifreeze that's not pre-mixed, it's half and half. Okay. I wouldn't know where my cabin filter is. Marion, in your HRV, I suspect it's in behind the glove boxes where the cabin filter is. But, you know, you could look that up, or you can just take it into a technician and just say, hey, can you change the cabin filter for me? Eric, but if you bang your wipers too hard, the wiper blades could get stuck and tear too. Yeah, I've never really had that experience, Eric, with the wiper blades. Epic, if you're taking your CDL tests for New Jersey, California, test in the wintertime, will they require the test taker to do checks for the winter drive on the test or not? No. Part of the pre-trip inspection for wintertime, Epic. Now, I'll just back up and say you do need to have tire chains in the wintertime. They will need to be fitted on the vehicle. That's really the only requirement of driving in the wintertime with a CDL vehicle. Now, the other piece about that, in the wintertime, depending on how cold it is, but it's probably never going to be that cold, you know, because the vehicle's already been running. So you won't need, you know, a grill cover or anything like that. You know, the only thing you're going to need, if you're taking it here in British Columbia, there is snow, the vehicle will have to be fitted with tire chains, especially if you're heading out over the mountains or those types of things. But for the most part, there aren't any winter requirements for taking your CDL license in the wintertime. So that's another thing you can do. Aaron, yes, the cabin filter, definitely have a look at that. That's always the first place to go if you're having difficulty with your defrost or your heat in the wintertime. And I like to just keep the cabin filter changed once a year anyway, because you're you know, breathing that in, right? And as I said, it also restricts the airflow through the cabin and into the defrost and the heater and those types of things in your air conditioning in the summertime. So yeah. Epic, if you want to drive in the wintertime using a newer car, make sure your remote start is for heating up the interior. Once you open the door, you will have to start it up manually with the key fob. Okay. It's one thing I don't know about because I have a pet peeve. I dislike car starters. I just do. I have my reasons about that. And I will not fit my vehicle with one. I can walk out and turn the key on. That's not a big deal. But lots of people have them. They're pretty much standard feature now on most vehicles that they have a remote start. And as Epic said, you get in the vehicle, you still have to start it, right? You still have to push the button to tell it that you're in the vehicle and that it's running and those types of things. But, you know, I drive a 26-year-old car. So there you go. A thermostat. The other reason that I was talking about thermostats earlier, that you may have to replace the thermostat, the reason that I suggested that you take it into a technician and have a technician change the thermostat is owing to the fact that you will dump out a fair amount of coolant when you're changing the thermostat, because you're taking the hose off, because the top hose on the radiator is connected right into the engine port where the thermostat goes in, and you pull that off and a lot of coolant comes out. And after you're finished changing the thermostat, then you have to recharge the cooling system, which, you know, letting it sit there and idle for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then keep adding coolant into it until the radiator is topped up. And, you know, if you're not handy with wrenches or know how to recharge your cooling system and those types of things, is definitely something that you should take it into a technician, take it into a shop and get them to do that for you. Cabin filters, great for around farms too, especially dairy farms. Yes. And any place that's dusty, like farms and those types of things in the summertime and whatnot, Eric, and you're running the air conditioning, you're probably going to have to change it more than once a year because they're going to get really dirty. And especially the engine filter, the filter that draws air into the engine and mixes it with the gasoline or the fuel, that has to be changed as well. And you get into these dusty conditions, you're running a lot of gravel roads or those types of things, you're going to have to change those filters more often because they're filtering out all that dust and whatnot when you're driving around on the farms and those types of things. Odors too, yes, Eric. And if you got a lot of issues with odors and whatnot, you definitely want to, get your vehicle clean, take it into a detailer, and then use a aerosol bomb in your vehicle as well. I do that every couple of years. I will give my vehicle a good clean, spray it with vinegar, and use an aerosol bomb from the auto parts store. And they're really awesome, right? Because they don't just do the inside of the cabin. You turn your air conditioning on full when you put the aerosol bomb in the vehicle, and it draws it through all that plumbing inside the dash for the air conditioning and the defrost and the heat as well. So it does a really great job of doing that. I've used the Meguiar ones in the past few years, and I really like those. I'm not being sponsored by Meguiar, but I really like using the Meguiar aerosol bombs, and all of that will get the odors out of your vehicle and whatnot. And I'm one of those people, I like having the inside of my vehicle decently clean, not spotless, because I've got kids and dogs, and it's pretty tough to keep your vehicle pristine. I have known people in the past that do in fact keep their vehicle pristine, but I do pretty well with it. So tonight we were talking about passing your driver's test in the wintertime, taking your driver's test in the wintertime. Don't postpone until the summertime. There are so many reasons why you should take your driver's test in the wintertime, and it is definitely easier to pass your driver's test in the wintertime. There's less traffic. You don't have to be as exact on the test. You only have to get in behind the car in front of you. You don't have to stop at the exact stopping position at the stop sign in the intersection. Okay, there's not as much traffic. Driving examiners are less stressed, and it's easier to get a test date. So don't postpone taking your driver's test and getting your license until the summertime. Get your license now, and then in the summertime, you're out driving around while your friends are waiting to get a test date at the DMV. Make sure you watch Sam's most recent video there. And Stryker, let me see, Marion. I'll see if I can go find him. I know exactly where he is. He's sitting on the chair having a snooze. Your fans want to see you. There he is. There's the lazy Doug. See, he's kind of refusing to wake up. There you go. No, look over here. There you go. He's like, I was having such a good nap and you woke me up. I went outside twice in the cold. What are you doing? What are you doing to me? I'm not looking, and I'm not gonna... I'm gonna snort and do my whole thing here. Frenchie, you're not looking impressed. Does he snore? Eric, actually, no, he's not too bad on the snoring part, but he does push into you all night. He just like pushes into you. He's got to be right there. So, Ian, I passed my class 5 road test in the snow and rain in my 5-speed. The instructor said he knew I was going to pass after the first minute. Made me 14 more because he said it was a stressful day. Awesome. That is great news, my friend. Congratulations, Ian, on passing your driver's test. And what did you do to celebrate, my friend? Freddie doesn't want to drive in the wintertime. No, you're absolutely right. Salim, wow, so nice you can see. Say hi. Excellent. Yes, the Frenchie. Everybody says, oh my God, we go to the dog park and he's like, oh my God, he's so cute. He's so cute. He's so cute. Yes, Stryker dog. All the best. All right. Take your driver's test in the wintertime. Pass your driver's test. Be ready to go in the summertime. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now. Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody.